Good morning. Welcome to SimWorld today. We are a mobile edition of SimWorld. Joined this Tuesday mobile morning by B-Ron. So we're all over the place with new changes on SimWorld today this morning. Good morning, B-Ron. How are you?
I'm doing good, Marsh. It's good to be here with you on a Tuesday first thing. I'm usually on Wednesday shows, but hey, sometimes you gotta fill in, and when you need to fill in, I'm the guy to do it. I'm B Ron. What's up, man? Good to be here with you, Marsh.
On a little scouting SimWorld U trip of my own, not necessarily on broadcast, but we're still putting the work in, obviously. So this is where we are. Let's start where we are with Monday Night Football last night, where the New York Giants and the Pittsburgh Steelers did exactly what I think we thought they were going to be and put together one of the more disappointing and, in my opinion, boring Monday Night Football games. The Steelers prevail, but this thing had Stinkfest on it for much of the morning. And it ended up being what, a 26-18 win for Pittsburgh. B-Ron, your takeaways from this game?
I'm kind of surprised the Giants were able to hang in as long as they did. I know that the Steelers are dealing with Russell Wilson coming back from injury and all that stuff, and I was concerned about the starting change from Fields back to Wilson, but it didn't seem to matter too much. I hate that Steelers are in first place, right? Or as a Ravens fan, that they're leading the division right now, but it can't be helped. The Giants, though, they're just not a good football team, and the fact that they hung around as long as they did with the Steelers is impressive in itself. There's no moral victories in SWFL, but there's something to say for that at least.
Well, this game was close because the Steelers' offense. That it doesn't matter if it's dangerous, Mr. Incredible, or Justin Fields in the backfield. This is not really a great quarterback room. Yeah, the stats last night for Russell Wilson were great, 278 and a touchdown, but overall, this was an offense that was kind of lackluster, in my opinion. Where the Steelers are dominant is they play 1992 era basketball football. They play elite defense, and then Najee Harris has had. I don't love that the SWFL has made it, and you can look into the conspiracy theories of it. I'm not normally a tin head, but here we are, of the comeback player of the year, and it having to be somebody who's returned from absence or injury, because Najee Harris, I think maybe would make sense, maybe better for most improved player, because he has been a complete revelation from the first couple seasons of his career dealing with injuries to being a every down 20 carry power back. He has, in my opinion, as much as TJ Watt on the defensive side of the ball, it's been Najee Harris has been the biggest difference of this Pittsburgh Steelers football team, and it's why they're 6-2, because he has been so gosh darn dominant every single Sunday for the Steelers.
Yeah, he really has, and I'm impressed with how he's been able to come back, whatever you want to say, from the injuries, all the stuff that he had to deal with over the course of his career so far. And I think that having the run game, it just makes you so much more dangerous to deal with. You can look at, the Ravens with Derrick Henry. You can look at when McCaffrey's held for San Fran, for example. That's another good one. So yeah, running backs are very important, as we know. And Harris continued to show why last night again.
And it's not as if Harris hasn't been healthy. He actually hasn't missed a game in his entire career. They just are finally unleashing him to the full extent. You go back to his rookie year, he had 307 carries. He hasn't surpassed 270 in the last 2 years, yet his yards per carry remains at 4. I'm not an advocate of burning guys into the ground. That's how we end up with Todd Gurley. But Najee Harris this season has been absolutely fantastic for the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, let's roll on to SimWorld U, where yesterday Georgia Tech rolled on with a 10-point win over just then re-ranked again Kansas. Georgia Tech, though, now moves to 5-1. I find it hard to believe that this team isn't in the top 10 starting next season. And I said this on the pod yesterday before their game, but Donta Walker is a difference maker. He has been absolutely fantastic. Adam Mahmoud had a really great night last night. Those two combined, what was it, 7 made threes, I think, between the two of them. This offense is legit, and for the first time this season, we saw their defense show up against a pretty good Kansas squad.
Yeah, we really did. And, Georgia Tech, man, they continue to impress me for a school that really hasn't been relevant in SimWorld basketball
No
for
kidding.
the longest time.
Yeah.
For them to show what they're showing so far this season, 11 ranked coming into this week. Next week they'll probably be in the top 10. This has been really impressive, and Donta Walker is a big reason for that. This kid is legit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where else you go for this. I gave my spiel on it yesterday. I don't need to rehash too much of it, but what I was most impressed last night was they did a fantastic job of shutting down everybody that's not named Nas Hall and Madison Miles, and they kept them to relatively low shot numbers. We saw this in the game last week when Kansas played, was it Illinois? No. Who did they play? They beat a ranked team last at the end of last week, and the name is just now escaping me. But Nas Hall, it was against Pooh Lewis and the Louisville Cardinals. There we go. We found it.
Yes.
We found it, folks. And Nas Hall just took over in the second half of that basketball game. And I thought Georgia Tech did a great job yesterday of not allowing that to happen. They continued to bring double teams that forced the ball out of Nas Hall's hands. They continued to deny in the post so that Madison Miles couldn't get rolling. That's where his game, his bread and butter is inside the post. They didn't let him get it. And they said, hey, Jarvis Woodson, you go 6 of 7, but we're fine with that. Carmelo Vega, you have to beat us. Charles Pinkard went 1 of 10, 0 of 9 from deep. They threatened other guys to beat them. They encouraged other guys to beat them, and they didn't. And I think that's just a testament to the game plan they went in with. That is not what we are used to from Georgia Tech this season. And to your point, B-Roll, which is a great one, this is a team that's been completely irrelevant for the last, I don't even know how long, ever
Forever,
maybe.
it feels like,
And
yeah.
suddenly they are. And a top 10 team does not feel outlandish for them. What might feel outlandish, though, is considering Iowa a top 10 team as they get thrashed by Kansas State 97-73. Lamarian Sherwood did Lamarian Sherwood things, 27 points, but the rest of this roster brought nothing to the table, and they fall 24 points to Kansas State. So my question would be, what's your concern level right now with Iowa?
5
out
right
of
now?
out of 10.
Out of 10, yeah, out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we're in a similar situation to Jafet Towns in Missouri in some regards, where he Sherwood has to be the one to kind of do it all, or else no one else is really gonna help him out. It feels like.
He does.
And you said it. He's done Sherwood things. There's been talk of him, possibly being a number 1 pick in the draft. I think that you can make a case for it. Depends on what you need, I think. But yeah, I don't like what I'm seeing from Iowa outside of Lamarian Sherwood, and last night kind of proved why.
Well, I mean, you just that highlight that we just saw, which I believe was last night against Kansas State. You bring the double, and you have a guy wide open in the corner for a 3-pointer, and Lamarian Sherwood doesn't pass to him, and instead pulls up for a turnaround jumper, fading away from the free throw line. Now, look, he made it, but that is by no classification a good shot. But for this roster, that is actually a good shot because they have been completely unable to get anybody else involved, and that has put the onus on Sherwood. And even if we go back to that overtime win against Arizona, what did it take for them to win? Sherwood going for 49 points. Now, best players are going to be best players on good basketball teams and any basketball team. I'm not here to say that you shouldn't be feeding Sherwood, but the fact that they just cannot rely on anybody else to win games makes me very concerned. I think they'll be okay in the Big Ten, but as we try to landscape them out long term, I don't see the pathway for this team to be a national champion if we're going to consistently get nights like 2 of 13 from Stacey Van Arsdale, if we're going to get 3 of 8 from Dimitri Simpton, if we're going to get, Ryden Robinette, another starter, going 0 of 6. These are guys that you need to have big moments for. And your best player, not named Sherwood yesterday, was Ryder Rawls, who played 19 minutes and had 11 points. So if your starting 5 is not going to get it done next to Sherwood, that's where my panic goes. I'm going to put it at a 6. You did a 5, only because I just am a little more skeptical that anybody else on this roster, B-Ron, is going to be able to step up and actually produce next to Sherwood.
Yeah, and the fact that they're number 12 in the nation right now.
That's fallen, right? But
yeah, right. Yeah, a lot of that has to do with Sherwood's play, over to start
100%.
the season. And that's fine, but that's not going to get you very far. Like you said, in the grand scheme of things, we're talking about conference play and tournament time. You're going to have to do a lot more work and work a lot harder come then versus you are now, a week, 2 weeks into the season. Now entering third week of the season now.
And if you're Iowa, now's the time to stack the wins. Before you get to Big Ten play, you have got to stack the wins because the Big Ten's tough. I mean, say what you will about Illinois, it's still a tough basketball team. Maryland is a tough basketball team. We only have seen Rutgers once. That's going to be a tough basketball team. Michigan, Ohio State is going to be a challenge. This is not going to be an easy road for Iowa. So you need to stack the wins now because these are the types of losses at home by 24 that the voting committee is going to go back to and say, if you don't win your conference and if you aren't the number one regular season team in the Big Ten, they're going to look at it and say, we really want this team in our postseason? Do we really want that? Or do we choose somebody else that might have been a little bit more consistent and, most importantly, not getting beat at home in non-conference games? All right, let's head to our SimWorld U wrap-up. It was a light slate, 6 games on the calendar. We already did 4. We talked about Georgia Tech moving to 5-1 and Kansas State beating Iowa. So let's jump in where it was USC absolutely demolishing Seton Hall with 52 second-half points for a 77-48 win. The Trojans get a big one, their third on the season on the road against a Big East opponent. Here we go to Washington and Virginia Tech, where another big second half is not enough this time as Virginia Tech outscores Washington 41-17 to get a 68-67 win. Newly Cox, Travion Novich, each with 19 points for the Hawkeyes. Creighton and Dayton. Creighton thrashing in a big first half, 44-27 first half lead. How about Lusant Kurbstu with 20 points to lead the Blue Jays over the Dayton Flyers, 81-57, and then rounding it out. No good things can continue to come the way of the Sooners as it's a 68-67 win for Penn State in their opener. Nick Beal with 20. Jason McGez leads the way with 23 for the Sooners. All right, that is our slate of action, and we have a big one tonight. Mississippi State and Miami square off in our game of the week on 8:30 on CBS. That is going to be a dandy. That is going to be a dandy. Do not miss this one because Miami, Mississippi State is going to be a good one. B-Ron, real quick, your preview, your thoughts. Who do you got tonight in the game of the week?
Mississippi State has been, on a roll, I guess we'll say. They've had some good wins starting the season. Miami really hasn't looked that great start the season at all, in my opinion. Say what you want about them being ranked number 8. I don't think they should be there. I think they should be there still, but I think that you can make a case for them being under 8. I'm gonna take Mississippi State because they're home. They're home.
Mississippi State and Terrell Pearson, the pick for B-Roll. All right, that is our show. We're coming back tomorrow morning, recapping that and the rest of the SimWorld U schedule, plus maybe a little bit of baseball. 3-0 Dodgers on top in the World Series. I know, B-Roll, you're a baseball fan. Give us that real quick as we close out. Dodgers, are they sweeping or are the Yankees staying alive?
I'll give the Yankees one game. I'll give them one game.
Give them one game. All right.
I think they'll take it, yeah.
I would... As a Red Sox fan, I hope they get none, and I hope
they don't either as an O's fan, but
yeah. But you're right. It would seem likely, but we'll find out. All right, we're back tomorrow morning here on SimWorld Today. Appreciate you tuning in. The only place you can see the game, be the game.
This has been a presentation of SimWorld Sports.